Hi, my name is Ellie. I am 18 years old and I live in the northeast of England. I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and today I'm going to be answering some questions on EDS and disabilities as a whole. So the first question is, could you tell us some basic info about EDS? So EDS stands for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is a group of genetic connective tissue disorders which can affect the whole body in various different ways and in the multiple different systems of our body. There are 13 different types of EDS, and the most common type is type 3, the hypermobile type, and that's the type that I suffer from. And collagen, which is described as the glue that holds our body together, is faulty in those that have EDS, resulting in all of the issues that we experience in our body throughout our lifetime. So there really is a lot that comes with EDS. It can become quite confusing to those that don't understand it, but to simply put it, that is what EDS is. So the second question is, what stigmas and myths surround this illness? So I'd say there is quite a lot, but I'd say a big one is people think EDS is just about being flexible, double jointed, bendy, just having a good few party tricks to show off, but that is not the case. There is so much more that comes with EDS than just being flexible. Yes, hypermobility is a huge factor of EDS, especially the hypermobile type of EDS, but it's not the whole picture. Another one is you can't have EDS if you don't have stretchy skin. So that's also not the case. Not every single person with EDS has to have stretchy skin. I've heard that a lot, but that's not the case. And another one, you look healthy. So if you looked at me, you wouldn't necessarily thought that I had multiple chronic conditions. So people are just looking at you and judging what they see on the outside. But if you were to turn my body inside out, it would be a completely different story. So there's no certain way to look with an illness. So yeah, I'm going to move on to the next one. Question 3, what is something you would like everyone to know about dealing with EDS and disabilities as a whole? So one thing I'd like people to know is that it changes on a daily basis. So what I might have been able to do yesterday, I might not be able to do today. So every day is different, and I know that can be quite difficult for someone who doesn't understand and doesn't have the knowledge to grasp, but that is the case. What I did yesterday could send me into a flare-up, or wear me out for hours, days, weeks, or months on end. It completely depends, and everyone has different abilities as well, so it affects everyone individually. The next question is, what are the things you wish everyone knew about disabilities and the people dealing with them? I feel like these last 3 questions I could go on forever about. There's so much that I could say, but obviously that's not possible. But for this one, I'd say it's tough. It is very tough, but everyone with a disability, a chronic condition, we're all just trying our best to get through the day, and to manage. Some days our best might just be waking up on a morning, surviving the day until the moment we go to sleep again at night. It's all completely depends on how we are each day, but every day we are fully trying our best, and just getting through the day can be an achievement in itself. And another one is every person's an individual, so as I just mentioned, and not everyone with the same condition will be affected the same way. So another person could have EDS like myself, but we could be displaying completely different symptoms and have completely different abilities, and suffer in a completely different way but have the same condition. So even though you've got one condition, it doesn't mean to say that it affects everybody in the same way, because that's not the case. And I'd say another one is you don't always follow the book. So I've had a lot of experience in telling, and so have my parents, when I was a child, that I don't always follow the book, and I know there's a lot of people out there that are the same. Just because you've got a condition doesn't mean to say what it says in a medical textbook is how it presents in you. Yet again, it goes back to everyone being completely individual. So I was always told we've never had another Ellie, and they hadn't ever heard of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome until they had met me and I was officially diagnosed. So it was a lot of trying to obviously expand their knowledge, and obviously myself, because I hadn't known. I didn't know what it was at the time. But yeah, we don't always follow the book, and a medical professional having a 1-hour lecture on a condition does not give them the same knowledge that someone who lives with that condition day in, day out has. So most often a patient will go to a medical professional with more knowledge and understanding of a condition than the professional herself. And I know there are, in my experience, a lot of professionals that do not appreciate that, even though your aim is to try and educate them so that they can in turn help you. But yeah, we don't always follow the book. We don't always follow what it says in a medical textbook and how a medical professional should think you should present. Another one is, I think it was similar to what I've just previously said, is, you know, you look healthy, you can't have all that wrong with you. So I have multiple comorbidities, core conditions that come with EDS, such as POTS, mast cell activation syndrome, gastroparesis, I've got feeding tubes, and a lot of people, well, I've had some experience of people saying, well, you know, you can't have all that wrong with you, you're only 18, but that's not the case. There's no age limit on when a person should develop a certain medical condition. But yeah, there's a lot more, but obviously I could sit here forever and talk about those points and the stigmas and myths are surrounding EDS alone. But yeah, we're going to move on. The next question is, does it bother you when people ask or are curious about your illness? For me, no. I'm very open and honest in talking about my conditions and everything that comes with them. I've always been like that. I look at it as an opportunity to raise awareness and widen the understanding of the conditions to people and to medical professionals. So if I was out and about and people saw my feeding tubes and me hooked up to my feeding machines, then I would be more than happy to explain what it is to someone. I'd rather someone come up and ask than just stop and stare and be curious. I know there are people that would rather people not ask, but I'm someone who is perfectly happy to explain. So next question is, and what bothers you most in other people's behaviour towards you? So throughout my life I have had to deal with a lot of people being rude and arrogant because of my illness, which obviously shouldn't be the case because it's obviously not something I can control, but there are people out there who are very judgmental and will always have an opinion on things. I've not had so much experience since I've been older with this issue because I'm able to express myself, I'm able to put people right, and educate them. But overall, I'd say I've not had a huge amount of experience with that because I have so much support around me, and a lot of people are quite understanding and willing to learn and just accept me for who I am. But I have had experience with that, and there will be people throughout my life, especially as, you know, I'm growing up and coming out into the world more. There will be more of that, I'm guessing, along the way, but I am able to put people right, and I'm able to just block out any negativity that may come my way. So yeah, I'm pretty okay with managing that. So the next question is, would you say the government in your country helps people with disabilities enough? Without a doubt, no, they don't. I feel like the world as a whole is not built for those with disabilities and conditions. I really don't feel they do enough, and I feel like there is a lot more that they can do. I'm going to move on to the next question. How has living with chronic illnesses affected your life? So for me, I've spent my whole childhood ill ever since I was born. I was displaying symptoms of something being not right, something was wrong. And I received my first feeding tube when I was 4 years old, so obviously very young. And yeah, my entire life's just been based around my illnesses. I didn't receive my official ADS diagnosis until I was 14 years old. And even now I'm still being diagnosed with other conditions which I've displayed symptoms with for years. So there's a lot that's gone on throughout my life, there's a lot that's still going on, but it's massively affected everything. It's impacted my education, my social life, everything. My entire life has revolved around illness, and I lost my entire childhood to it. I lost everything. So I'm only just getting to a point where I am stable and I'm managing to kind of rebuild my life from scratch in a way, because I never had any experiences when I was younger. I spent majority of my life in hospital and just always really unwell, and obviously not having anyone around me that understood my condition or wanted to believe it. I was misdiagnosed a lot as a child. Had my condition blamed on other things such as eating disorder, mental health issues, fabricated and induced illness on my mum's part. So yeah, I did miss out on a lot, and I'm now starting to kind of rebuild everything in going back into education and just making them steps in building my own kind of career, really. I now know what I want to do, when for so long I didn't, because everything was affected, and for so long I did feel that things were never ever going to improve. I genuinely believed that, whereas now they are getting there and I'm doing much better than what I was. So got to look on the positive side. The next question is, how much time do you spend daily on rehabilitation and treatment? So on a day-to-day basis I have medications to take 3 to 4 times a day, feeding routines, physio, and it also depends on how I am day to day. Some days I may require more treatments and more of the day surrounded by my illness if I'm in a flare and I require more support, but on average I'd say maybe around 2 full hours a day on average, putting everything together, but that could differ from day to day. But I found that drawing up my medications of an evening ready for the next day has helped with that instead of just going along and doing them as and when I needed them, because that did take up a lot of time. So I'd rather spend a full hour or so of an evening doing that, so then it's prepared for the next day. So I found that that has helped. Next question is, how have you come to accept or at least tolerate your illnesses? So although I've just said that obviously I've suffered with chronic illness my whole life, it still doesn't mean to say that it's been easy. Although it's been my normal, it's been extremely tough because I just used to watch my peers live their life and I could never live up to the same standard and do the same things as them, obviously because of my extra needs that I had. So I've just along the way just come to accept that this is as it is. There's nothing I can do about it. There is no cure. There's not really any treatment. It's just mostly about managing the conditions as best as I possibly can. So I'm on the medications that help to manage my symptoms, but overall it is just about management. So I've just had to come to accept that this is as it is. There's nothing I can do about it, but although I've had multiple negative experiences, I will use that in a positive way to help others and to spread awareness and expand the knowledge and understanding of these conditions and everything that comes with it. But yeah, for so long, despite me having a feeding tube since I was 4 years old, it took me a very, very long time to accept that that was there. And then back in August 2021, I had a surgical jejunostomy placed, which then obviously meant that I had 2 feeding tubes in my abdomen, and I did really struggle with that because I was still struggling to accept that I had one there. But within this past year, a lot has changed within myself, and I've come to a level where I've accepted that this is as it is. Obviously it's tough. There are going to be days where I struggle with it more than others, but overall I've come to accept that this is my life and I just have to get on with it and live it as best as I possibly can despite my illnesses. So the next question is, what do you think we can do to make the world more accessible for people with disabilities? So I feel like there's a lot that can be done. As I previously said, the world is not built for those with chronic conditions and disabilities. It's just not. I know a lot of people that use a wheelchair, and I sometimes myself have to use a wheelchair, and the world is not accessible for those with wheelchairs as a whole. I feel like there's a lot more that can be done to make the world more accessible in that respect. But also I lost out on an education because I didn't tick the boxes of needing the help that I clearly required. I had to tick the boxes that the government wanted me to tick to then receive the help that I should have been entitled to anyways. So I didn't receive the support that I needed within my education, and I had to drop out of school early because of that. I was spending too much time in hospital. I was just so behind on everything, and I was just pretty much left. I feel like overall there is so much more that can be done to make the world more accessible for those with disabilities. But yeah, I know that there's a lot of people in a similar position to me, and you know, an education is vital, and I wasn't given the right to an education purely because I didn't tick some boxes. I think that's absolutely disgraceful, it really is. So yeah, there is a lot that can be done. And the final question is, what is the main reason you share your story on the internet? So I set up my Instagram account back about 3 years ago, if I remember rightly, and that was in a time, it took a lot of courage for me to actually set it up in the first place, but it was with family support that I did, and it was one of the best things I have ever done, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It really was one of the best things I've ever done. It was at a time where I was really lonely. That year I spent majority of it as a hospital inpatient, constantly in and out, and I felt so alone, very isolated, didn't have any support from anyone around me who had conditions like myself. I had so much support in my entire life. I've had so much support around me from family, friends and people that know me, and without that I wouldn't have gotten through. I didn't have anyone that I could relate to who had the same conditions. But once I set up my account, I met so many incredible people, some of which who've become really, really close friends. And I've used that platform because everything that I know about my illness, I know about disabilities as a whole, chronic conditions as a whole, everything that I know has been from my own knowledge, from my own personal experiences. I didn't have anyone to go to when I was younger. I didn't have anyone there to give me that knowledge. I was completely on my own. Everything I've learned has been completely from scratch. And it was tough, but I can now use my platform and help and support others who maybe feel like they're completely alone and haven't got anyone that they can go to, and just be there for others who may be struggling in the same way that I was for so many years. So I use it to educate people, to raise awareness, not just on EDS, but as disabilities as a whole, and everything that comes with it, all the issues that can come with it, all the positives that can come with it, in the sense that you meet the most amazing people through your conditions. I have met so many different people with so many different conditions, and they really are just the most amazing people. And right now I couldn't imagine my life without them. I really couldn't. Yeah, I've learned so much, and I now use that to help others and support others, and hope that I can make at least one other person not feel the way that I felt for so many years, and for them to know that they have that support there, because that's something I never had, and I want to provide what I never had to people who may possibly be feeling the same way that I felt for so many years. But yeah, I love getting to know other people, and being able to help people it's so rewarding, and me helping other people actually then helps me as well. So I absolutely love doing what I do, and will do it for as long as I possibly can. So yeah, that's everything. So I want to say thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this interview. I've really enjoyed it. And if you would like to come and follow me over on Instagram, my handle is elliesjourney.x. And yeah, thank you again for allowing me to do this, and goodbye.